view all phenomena as dream-like. Well, what are dreams like? We've all dreamed. Most of us remember at least some dreams. But you know it was a dream only after it's over. And then many of us don't have very good dream recall. But when you're in the midst of a non-lucid dream, that is, you're dreaming and you don't know you're dreaming, then you don't know what dreams are like because you don't know that you're dreaming, right? And so we all know what non-lucid dreams are like. With mental perception, this is a point that's so often overlooked, astonishingly overlooked in modern psychology, that we have not 5 but 6 modes of perception. What could be more obvious? When you're dreaming, you are perceiving the colors and the sounds and the smells and the tastes. You're perceiving landscapes and people and activities. You're perceiving yourself. You're perceiving your emotions. You're perceiving all kinds of things. You're not inferring them. You're not simply imagining them. You are perceiving the appearances that are arising to mental awareness. And that's a 6th mode of perception, as visual perception perceives visual shapes and colors, auditory sounds, and so on. It's amazing. I studied cognitive psychology as a graduate student, and I was astonished that mental perception never even came up, and introspection was dismissed as something, oh, we tried that and it didn't work. I just wanted to burst out laughing. How could you ignore that? In any case, if you want to know what a dream is like, then the best approach would be to know that you're dreaming when you're dreaming, while you are dreaming. It's called a lucid dream, of course. And many of you, I'm sure, have had this experience. I've had numerous lucid dreams like many other people. Nothing special about me. But when you're in the midst of a lucid dream, then you're not in the dream. You're not delusional. When you're experiencing a non-lucid dream, as Freud commented, in a non-lucid dream you're going through a bout of temporary insanity, because you're not able to distinguish what are the free creations of your mind versus objective reality, what's out there, what is intersubjective reality. You're taking things that are just emerging from your mind stream, from your subconscious, let's say, people, places, events, and so forth, and you have no idea that that's not actually a person over there, that's not actually a place. That's not actually physical. When you are dreaming, nothing that you're experiencing is physical. The awareness with which you are conscious of the dream is not physical. The laws of physics do not apply in dreams, as everybody should know. You can fly. You can be in Manchester in one moment, and in a finger snap you could be in Moscow. You could be seeing dead relatives. A dream is a non-physical reality. It is a reality. It has causal efficacy. Anything that has causal efficacy is as real as anything else. It exists. Causally efficacious. You can experience joys and sorrows. Ironically, in a dream, you can even experience physical pain, that is, of your non-physical body in the dream. If somebody punches you, or you get hit with a rock, it hurts. Isn't that weird? Because the rock that hits you isn't made of matter, and the head that it hits isn't made of matter, and yet, ow, you experience pain. How weird, huh? So in a lucid dream, the dream appearances are arising as they did before. And you see the appearances as being over there. Oh, there's Mary, there's Jack. Oh, look, there's that beautiful mountain. Oh, let's drive in the car. Oh, we're going too fast. We might hit something. Slow down. We might hit something. But you know you're dreaming. So you know there are no other people there. Those are not actual people. They're appearances of people. They act like people. They may show facial expressions that they're happy or sad, but you know they're not people. There's only one sentient being in the dream, and that's you. But the you in the dream is not a sentient being either. It's also a characterization, a caricature, a creation. The person is actually the person lying in bed sleeping. That's the person. And this is a figment of that person's imagination, a free creation of this person's mind stream. And the imprints, the predilections, the subconscious tendencies, and so forth. When you are lucid, You're seeing appearances as if they're really out there, but you know they're not. You seem to be this persona in the dream with a lifespan of maybe 15 minutes, a half an hour, and then the dream's over, and then you slip back into a dreamless sleep. And you know this is not a person. You're not a person with a 30-minute lifespan who was never born. You came in as an adult, right? Or a child or whatever you might be. But you don't have parents in a dream that actually gave birth to you or conceived of you. The appearances are all misleading in a dream. Of yourself being over here and other people being over there. The colors, sounds, shapes all being over there, coming from outside. They're all misleading. They're all delusive. But because you're lucid, you know this is a dream. And although things appear to be from their own side, and you appear to be over here from your own side, it's not true. And in that knowing of the actual nature of the dream, it appears in that way, but that's not how things exist. That gives you a great deal of freedom. And the more thoroughly you comprehend the nature of the dream state, the greater freedom you have. You can simply decide and choose one reality over another with your creative mind. You can fly, you can walk through walls, you can suddenly be in Paris. You can do all kinds of things when you're lucid that you can't do when you're not lucid. Now that's what a dream is like. Now Atisha does not say view everything as a dream, because that would be delusional. To not be able to distinguish between dream and waking state is to be insane, delusional. But dream-like, in what way dream-like? Among human beings, there are, for starters, two kinds. There are more kinds, but I'll just deal with two right now. Among human beings, there are naive realists. This is Western philosophical terminology. A naive realist looks around and sees the colors over there. That's the beige color of the wall and the brown color of the rafters, and there's the pale blue of the sky, and thinks these colors are actually out there in physical space. There's a palm tree over there. Oh, I see the fronds of the palm tree are light green, a bit yellowish. And thinking the color is over there. It's actually there in the palm tree. And the blue in the sky is really over there. And the sounds are coming from over there, and the smells are coming from here. And the tastes are in the food. And this cloth is rather smooth. And so it's smooth. It has a quality of smoothness. That is, a naive realist sees all these qualia, the immediate contents of our sensory experience, colors and shapes, sound, smell, taste, and tactile sensations, as being out there independent of our being aware of them. They seem to be, they appear to be. But any thoughtful philosopher, or a neuroscientist, psychologist, or a physicist knows that's not true. Even the most hardcore materialist, I'm thinking of one neurologist that I know of, and I met him briefly once, he acknowledged, hey, colors don't travel through space. Sound waves, of course they travel, but sounds, that doesn't travel through space. The brain, the visual cortex, the auditory cortices, the olfactory lobes, parts of the brain, they're not just like flypaper picking up colors and sounds and smell. Colors, sounds, and smell that we experience arise independent upon our sense faculties. If you have damaged your optic nerve, then you may not see any longer. Maybe you may be blind. Damage to the eardrum, damage to the auditory cortices, then you won't hear. And so likewise, all of these sensory experiences, and then our mental experience of memory, of imagination, of empathy, mental process of joy and sorrow, anger and patience, compassion and indifference. All of these are arising in dependence upon the brain, for sure. But look at them, they're not physical. None of these qualia, none of these immediate contents of experience, whether you're dreaming or whether you're wide awake, none of these exist in physical space. Now this is where Atisha comes down, They don't exist in physical space. The colors are not out there. Molecules, atoms, waves, fields, particles, sure. But the qualia are not out there. The colors that you're seeing right now are not where they appear to be. Atoms don't have colors. Sound waves don't have sounds embedded in them. Electromagnetic fields don't have a shape or a color. But then to think, oh, well, these are all correlated with brain activity, they must be inside the brain. That's some of the most naive thinking I've ever heard of. I'm looking at a light switch over there. And when the light switch is down, the lights are off. But I flick the light switch up and then the lights go on. Oh, there's a correlation between the light switch and the lights. If two things are correlated, do you really think they have to be located in the same place? Because there are brain correlates to sight, to sound, to memory, to dreams, if subjective experiences, because they are correlated with neural activity. Do you think they have to be located in the same place? Then there must be light in the light switch, or there must be a light switch in the light. Come on. It's crazy. It's incredibly simplistic, uncritical thinking to think that any mental event, any experience, any qualia actually are inside the brain. There's a lot of things inside the brain, but there's all that's inside the brain are chemicals and electricity. Or protein, fat, water, and electricity. If you want to know what's inside the head, that's it. There are no images in the visual cortex. There are no emotions in the amygdala, and so on. So where are all of these qualities, these subjective experience in the waking and the dream state? Where are they located? They're not out there. Every neuroscientist physicist who's worth his or her salt knows that's not true. They're not out there. But it's just sheer imagination, naive, ridiculous imagination, to think they're in the head. Nobody's ever seen any subjective experience inside the brain. You see neurons, dendrites, glial cells, and so on. You don't see subjective experiences. They're not there. But if our subjective experience, whether dreaming or waking, is not out there outside of the head, and not inside the head either, then doesn't it immediately follow these appearances of all kinds to the six senses are not located in physical space? When you're dreaming, you think they're really out there. The naive realist thinks that colors and so forth are really out there, but you're wrong. And scientists and philosophers figured that out a long time ago. As if bumblebees and rattlesnakes and human beings and animals of all kinds, let alone other invisible species, all see the same thing because the quality, the appearances are actually out there. No. There's a famous philosophical paper called What's It Like to Be a Bat? Because a bat experiences sonar, right? Well, then a bat has an experience of reality that we don't have because we don't experience sonar. And so, and simply put, whether you are dreaming or whether you're awake, all of your experiences, everything that appears to you sensorily and mentally, they're all non-physical. And none of them exist in physical space, but they appear to be. The naive realists are wrong, emphatically and obviously wrong. The physical senses are not flypaper that just pick up qualia and stick. Oh, I just seen something red. Some red flew through the sky and smacked me in the eyeball. Oh, I'm seeing red. Come on, it's ridiculous. So in terms of appearances, it's the same. Let's put a place to them. The appearances that arise in a dream are arising in the space of awareness, which is not a physical space, and the space of awareness isn't located anywhere in physical space. If you think it is, show me some evidence. There's so much blind faith in materialism. I'm astonished that anybody believes it, except that it's so attractive, and it's simple, and it gives you, again, a free ticket to make up your own morality and treat your own life casually and piss away your time as if it's worth nothing. Materialism encourages us to live meaningless lives. We may not, but not with any encouragement in materialism. So much for naive realism, but then virtually all of civilization, virtually all until very recently, all of science, and the people appropriating, living in the modern world, or even in ancient times, of course. Most people are metaphysical realists, if they've really thought about it. they think, well, of course, there's a real world out there. Newton believed that, Galileo believed that, Einstein believed that. Most scientists throughout history believe that. Most philosophers have believed that. Not all, but most. And most people philosophically unsophisticated or unlearned believe, of course, there's a reality out there. We all experience similar things, you know. And the world was here before we came along. It was already there. And there's a real world out there. And so from the very inception of modern science, the ideal of many scientists, including Galileo, was let's try to know reality from God's perspective, the way things really are before human beings ever were. And when God was taken off the table in mid-19th century science, and it became atheistic science, then it was called, again in the words of the same philosopher, a view from nowhere. His name is Thomas Nagel. A view from nowhere. Well, what's really happening when nobody's looking? And this was the aspiration of the ancient Greek philosophers, many of them, not all, is we philosophers were trying to figure out what's happening out there when nobody is looking, as if we are gods, as if we are standing outside of nature and we're just passively observing, oh, what's going on there in that world, as if we're not participants. The challenging of metaphysical realism, that there's a real world out there, and let's call it physical, made of space and time and matter and energy, particles and waves, fields, and so on. And science is gradually approximating, in the scientific view, approximating that more and more accurately. And perhaps one day they think, oh, maybe there'll be a grand unified theory. And we'll basically nail down reality with our theory. That was an aspiration of Einstein to his dying day in 1955. But something came along called quantum mechanics. And that was a revolution, much greater than the revolution in relativity theory. You have a lot of notes there, and I'm not going to go through them. These are notes, and I've cited one superb physicist, one after another, pointing out that as a result of the empirical evidence in quantum mechanics in particular, are grounds for believing there's a real world out there of matter, energy, elementary particles that are objectively real, waiting to be discovered, and we just have to bump into them. That's been shattered. That's been shattered. If you look in the modern media, even most of the modern science media, you won't find these people quoted. You'll not find those quotes. Modern education and modern media are overwhelmingly and unquestioningly assuming the reality of metaphysical realism. There's a real world out there, independent of anybody's experience of it. Quantum mechanics said, that's what we believed for hundreds and hundreds of years, but it's not tenable. I'm not going to elaborate there. I'm going to stay close to experience right here. But read that, because I think it's quite interesting that these teachings from Madhyamaka, the middle way view, they said all phenomena are dream-like in the sense that all the phenomena we're experiencing here in the waking state, all these appearances appear to be out there. All the objects that we see that have attributes appear to be out there independent of our perceptions of them and our conceptions of them. They're already discrete, they're already self-defining. All these objects in the surrounding world, our own bodies, and for that matter, our own minds already have their own intrinsic qualities. They've already defined themselves, they've already set up the borders between this and that, between the cup and the table, an emotion and a thought, my mind and your mind. The borders are already a given, and all of these things within each entity's borders, within its set of characteristics, they're already there. That's metaphysical realism. And in modern education, apart from quantum mechanics and apart from a philosophy course here and there, looking into the philosophy of Bishop Berkeley, Hegel, and some others, Plato for that matter, metaphysical realism rules, and yet it's been completely discredited by quantum mechanics. And then it's been completely discredited hundreds of years before by the Buddha himself, by Nagarjuna, by Aryadeva, by Shantideva, by Tsongkhapa, Padmasambhava, Sakyapandita, so many great scholar contemplatives know This is how things appear. Objects seem to be existing from their own side, by their own nature. I seem to be really here. Who's the real me? I take on different roles, sometimes as a grandfather, sometimes as a spouse, a friend, a client, a customer, a Dharma teacher. But who's the real me that takes on all these roles? And many of us think, no, just be yourself. Just be yourself, just be yourself. Where is that self? All phenomena are dreamlike. Appearances seem to be out there, naive realism. Objects seem to be out there. Subjects seem to be in here, metaphysical realism. A teacher doesn't just toss us a slogan and say, well, of course, I just said it, so believe it. He's assuming once again that people coming to this training, this 7-point mind training, which can be your vehicle from going from here to the path, to irreversible spiritual transformation. He's assuming you already have some momentum, a lot of understanding. In the great monastic universities of Tibet, which a number of my teachers went through, 24 years of education in the case of one, and that was rather common. Geshe Rabten, one of my primary teachers, he spent 24 years in his formal education in a monastic university near Lhasa. 4 years of that, full time, 4 years, the time it takes to get an undergraduate degree in modern universities. 4 years was entirely devoted to receiving teachings, memorizing texts, analyzing texts, and if you're a good student, meditating on the middle way of view of Nagarjuna, of Chandakirti, Shantideva, Tsongkhapa, and other great pundits and contemplatives. 4 years to bring about a revolution, a cognitive revolution, in the way you're viewing all of reality, apprehended objects and apprehended subjects, yourself, other people, and everything else. An absolute turnabout. The conclusion being that whether you're dreaming or whether you're in the waking state, no appearances exist from their own side. Refute naive realism. No objects exist from their own side. Refutation of metaphysical realism. And you say, wait a minute, that's silly. If you had not studied at all, and you just want to have a knee-jerk reaction. Oh, that's silly. This cup, for example. Hey, this cup. Don't tell me it doesn't exist from its own side. Look, watch. It exists. My knuckle exists from its own side. The cup exists from its own side. So don't tell me it doesn't. That's what is this? Mumbo jumbo mysticism? Well, let's go ahead. Let's go into a dream right now. Let's just imagine we're slipping right into a dream, and let's give ourselves a treat. Let's go into a lucid dream right now. Imagine, and in this lucid dream, you and I are sitting together, and I'm drinking a cup of water. Nice and cool and fresh. That's water. And in the dream, I say, would you like to share my water? Oh, I got my trousers wet. Oh, it must be real water. In the dream, it's the same. You get your trousers wet when you spill the water. You drink the water, it's refreshing. Everything seems to exist from its own side in a dream. There's causal efficacy within the dream. If you throw a ball and somebody is catching it, you throw it back, and into the glove. It seems to be really there. And if you're not lucid, you think it is there. You're taking everything at face value. But if you're lucid in a dream, that's a misleading appearance. It seems to be there, but that's the same thing as true in a dream. But investigate. Well, that's what physicists have been doing. They are the experts in terms of modern civilization. They're the experts in understanding the physical world. Physicists are the experts. And they're the ones, more than anybody else around, at least who appears in modern media and science and so forth, it's the physicists who are challenging, undermining, detonating the beliefs of materialism. Because the beliefs of materialism, everything boils down to the physical, assumes there's inherently existent physical space out there, inherently existent physical time out there. That's a context in which inherently existent, self-existent matter and energy and all configurations of matter and energy exist. And it's the physicists that say, I know that's how it appears, but about 100 years ago there was a revolution. Did you not notice? Then Heisenberg, Evan Schrödinger, Paul Dirac, Ring a bell? These pioneers of modern quantum mechanics in the 1920s, they, in the words of Heisenberg, said, we feel the very ground beneath us is shaking. This happened centuries ago by investigating reality from the inside out. Waking reality is dream-like. It's not the same. Because this is intersubjective. In this waking reality right now, this dream-like waking reality, we're in a world of intersubjectivity. I die, you continue living, right? If I'm dreaming, and the person lying in bed dreaming dies, all the people in the dream don't get reincarnated. They don't go anywhere. They didn't have parents. They didn't come from anything physical. They didn't come out of the brain. Dream people don't pop out of neurons. Come on, this is not magic. As the great biologist Thomas Huxley said, thinking that consciousness arises from the brain is like rubbing Aladdin's lamp and thinking a genie's going to pop out. It's magical thinking. I'm astonished that some people buy into that, because there's no basis in physics for this at all. And there's no basis in empirical evidence either, that thoughts, images, dreams come out of neurons. I mean, really? Then why don't I rub my cup here, or rub my head and hope some thoughts will pop out. Within a dream, there's causal efficacy within the dream. You can have a conversation, you interact, you can be experiencing things in response to your nervous system, your adrenaline system, your immune system can be affected by the non-physical events taking place in the dream. Everybody knows that that's true, that dreams affect your body, affects the waking state. But anybody who thinks that what takes place in the dream is physical, what drug did you take? Was that acid? Was it, what was it? You're hallucinating, dude. It's non-physical. So we just have to get over the obvious fact that non-physical phenomena, things like thoughts and ideas, prejudices and compassion, they influence the physical world. All wars come from non-physical thoughts and ideas and desires, anger and greed. All wars, all conflict. Everything we're experiencing here, all the appearances are all non-physical. Colors, smells, taste, dreams, thoughts, emotions are all non-physical. You can't measure them physically, they have no physical attributes, and they're not located in physical space. So one old friend of mine, who's a world expert in lucid dreaming, said, Stephen LaBerge, wrote some excellent books on lucid dreaming. He said the difference between a waking state and dream state is dreaming is experience not confined or limited by physical constraints, but it's dreaming, but it's not dependent on photons or sound waves or molecules in the atmosphere and so forth. It's not constrained by incoming physical stimuli. Brain activity for sure, but not like seeing a color, because there are light waves of a certain frequency. But waking state, he said, is dreaming. Waking state is dreaming, but with physical constraints. And that is, if I'm looking at a cloth that's red, I can't just say, well, I think I'd like it to be blue, and it doesn't turn blue. Because photons of a certain frequency are striking my retina, and likewise for sound waves, and likewise for tactile, and smells and touch, and taste. But what's the nature of the physical? We haven't yet challenged physical, that is metaphysical realism here. Say that waking experience is like a dream, except for there's a real physical world out there that limits what we can and cannot experience. Because there's a real world out there beyond appearances. Really? It certainly is common sense, that is common belief, but who's ever seen that world that exists out there, independent of measurement, independent of vision, independent of hearing, independent of touch? Who's ever actually seen a molecule, let alone an electromagnetic field, let alone energy, let alone an elementary particle? So look into the notes from these brilliant scientists. And all that we really know, and all that we experience every day, all and all night when we're dreaming, Everything we experience immediately by way of the six senses is all non-physical. It's all non-physical. Is there a physical world? In the Madhyamaka middle way view that Atisha is expressing here, advocating here, going back to Nagarjuna, the Madhyamaka view rooted in the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras of the Buddha, there is an external world. Atoms, particles, waves, fields, space, time, matter, energy, they do exist out there, independent of perception. Grass grows when nobody's looking. Planets form when nobody's watching. Volcanoes explode when nobody's there. But what's there independent of experience? What's there when nobody's looking? On the basis of appearances, which are non-physical and not located in physical space, we conceptually impute objects, people, lights, a cloth, table, this body. We conceive of objects. A chariot, for example. What are we seeing? Colors. And we touch it and tactile sensations. But the chariot, as it exists independent of perception, nobody has ever seen that. We conceive of objects, and the objects that we believe have the attributes of appearances that we see. The fire engine is red, it's making a loud noise. Well, in the molecules of the fire engine, there's no color. In the sound waves being emitted by the siren of the fire engine, there are no sounds. The objective world of matter and energy is devoid of appearances. Appearances are empty of physicality, empty of atoms. The colors you're seeing are not made of atoms, not matter or energy. All our immediate experience is non-physical, empty of physicality. The physical world that we impute, that we project, that we conceive, that we designate, is out there, independent of appearances, arises independent upon our conceptual designations of them. To sum up, in this one brief phrase, view everything as dreamlike, all phenomena as dreamlike. The surrounding world, he's referring to the world of apprehended objects, physical world, planets, galaxies. Here's the Madhyamaka view. How do they exist? This world, this house that I'm in right now, it was built more than 40 years ago. Contractors came, and brick and wood and plaster and all kinds of things were assembled. Workers were assembled, they were paid. And this house that I'm living in right now was built many, many years ago. This house arose independent upon prior causes and conditions. The stuff out of which it was made, the workers who put it together. So that's true for all composite phenomena. All physical phenomena in the world arise independent upon prior causes and conditions. That's true not only for physical phenomena, it's true for mental phenomena as well. The mind, conscious and mental states, mental processes arise independent upon prior causes and conditions. That's just true. May or may not know what they are, but it's true. But now for every object, let's say a house. How many houses do my wife and I own? We own one house. One house. And the house has multiple rooms. It has a roof, it has a foundation, it has windows and doors. It's one house and it has many, many parts, components, qualities. And so the one house is, on the one hand, dependent upon prior causes and conditions that gave rise to it, and the causes and conditions that help maintain the house so it hasn't fallen apart. And so we keep on tending to the house. That's the problem of being a householder. You have to keep on looking after it and repairing it, because it's always in the process of decay. The house is temporally dependent upon the prior causal conditions that gave rise to it. But the one house, there's only one house here, it exists simultaneously independent upon its myriad parts. How many molecules are there in these parts? How many bricks, how many boards, and so forth. There are many, many components, many qualities of the house, but there's one house. The one house would not exist independently of those properties, those parts, those characteristics. But they're not the same. There are many properties, only one house. So the house, if you took away all the parts, there wouldn't be any house left. And that's true for every object and every subject. Take away the qualities, and that which has the qualities is no longer. It's not temporal, it's simultaneous. But how is it that the whole comes into existence? The house, the one house. When did it come into existence? And when will it cease to exist? And again, the metaphysical realist said, well, there's some point when that which is out there, independent of conceptual designation, it's a house, and then at some point, it's objectively no longer a house. But that's not true. That's not true. When did this house come into existence? Did the last tile have to be placed? Did the last paintbrush have to do its stroke? Now your house is finished? Or wasn't it finished 5 minutes earlier? Wasn't it already a house? It wasn't finished, but it's an almost finished house. It's a house under construction. Maybe it doesn't even have a roof. Oh, then that's my house. It's under construction. It's not a complete house, but it's a house. It'll be completed soon. When does that which was not a house, those many, many parts, become a house? When we say so. I saw a house that was burned down in one of the many fires in California. And the owners of the house saw the remnants of their house. It was just the chimney, the stone chimney. Everything else was just cinders. And they said, wow, our house has been seriously damaged. They saw a burnt house, but it was still a house. And they're already envisioning, we need to rebuild the house. We need to improve the house. This house needs a lot of fixing. They saw a burnt house. It's still a house, though. There's many kinds of houses. A burnt house and an unburnt house. It's a house when you say it's a house. And it's no longer a house when you withdraw the conceptual designation of house. But it works retroactively. Look in the notes in among the physicists. The act of measurement, the act of conceptual designation works retroactively. And it works with respect to the future as well. Each of us exists in the center of the world that we conceptually designate. But in the waking state, we are intersubjectively designating, individually and collectively. But we are literally, individually and collectively, intersubjectively, conceiving the world that we dwell in. No conceptual designation, no objects. No conceptual designation. There's nothing that has something else as a property. This is a revolution. The revolution in modern physics isn't finished yet. It started about 100, 120 years ago. But it's not finished yet. Because the physicists haven't yet really fathomed what's the role of the mind. So appearances, all appearances, whether dreaming or waking, they're not out there, and they're not physical. They don't exist in physical space. I want to give them a location. They arise in the space of awareness, but the space of awareness isn't located in physical space. So where is the space of awareness located? Well, right where it is, but not in physical space. All your images, thoughts, desires, emotions, your joys and sorrows, all arise in the space of awareness. They are non-physical. The space in which they're located is non-physical. And as you'll see in the notes, the very existence of real, inherent existent, objective space and time has now been crushed by cutting-edge physics. Nima Arkady Ahmed, read his quote. He's among the creme de la creme of modern theoretical physicists. And it's not just his opinion. The world that we thought was really out there isn't really out there. But in a manner of speaking, yes. Conventionally, nominally, by consensual agreement, always from the perspective of sentient beings. There's one universe for every sentient being. There's a collective planet Earth for all of the human inhabitants on it. There's a collective planet Earth for the mammals and for the birds, the reptiles, the insects. They're all experiencing this world from their own perspectives, and it's arising relative to their perceptions and their conceptions, the way they identify food from non-food, a mate from non-mate. Conceptual designation. So all phenomena are empty, whether in the dream state or the waking state, empty of any existence from their own side, by their own nature. This is the growing consensus in modern cutting-edge physics, which is the cutting edge of the sword of modern science. Nobody knows more about the material world than physicists. Biologists know a lot more about life, and so on. But go down to the fundamental constituents of physical reality, atoms, particles. Nobody knows more in science than physicists. And they're the ones that have utterly already shattered the beliefs of materialism. Remember that movement, 50 years ago or so? God is dead, God is dead. Made a big splash in the media. The material world is dead. God may or may not be, ask him. But that world that we thought was really out there prior to Einstein, an absolute world of real matter, real energy, objectively, intrinsically real, and real space and real time, remember that one? That went out in 1905, and it was really gone by 1915. That world never existed. And the world of the fundamental constituents, physical reality, elementary particles that exist in and of themselves, just waiting to be measured, already there, it's gone. And everything you think you know about the world, everything you think you know about other people, the appearances, but how much more do you think you know about other people? Not being clairvoyant. You see the appearance of their face, you hear the sound of their voice, you hear what they say, you see what they look like. But what goes on in other people's minds? You don't know. You don't know. I don't know. But we say, oh, this person's very nice, this person's very jealous, this person's quite rude, this person's very gracious, this person's really evil. Well, that may be true, but we're painting everyone with our own concepts, and the palette is our own minds. Appearances we're not making up, but how we conceive of other people, the environment, situations, adversity and felicity. We think adversity happens to us. It's objectively real. Oh, too bad, too bad. Adversity hit with a sledgehammer. Oh, too bad. As if adversity exists by its own nature, objectively real. Not true. That's the real core we're getting to. And felicity, oh, things are going very well. Life is smiling. It's lovely. It's really lovely. As if felicity is out there. Not true. We experience adversity because we conceptually designate it as such. We experience felicity because we designate it as such. We can't control appearances manifesting to us, but we can control. We can purify and we can train. How do we choose to designate reality? And then we will live in the reality that we designated. View all phenomena as dreams, as if dreams, like dreams, but intrasubjective and with a lot of durability. Dreams, unisubjective. Everybody else is mere appearances of people, but they don't have their own mind streams. And they tend to be short and fleeting and quite irregular. No real laws. Miracles happening all the time in dream. Waking state, we have laws of nature, laws of physics, and so on. Intersubjective, durable. But waking state, and this is what he's really getting at here, waking reality is no more objectively or subjectively, inherently real than the dream. Now that's a revolution. It's hard to understand, hard to fathom, harder yet to experience, harder yet to realize. But that's what Dharma is for. For quantum physicists, so many of them are brilliant, have come up with brilliant conceptual insights, but does it really come back and impact the way they live? In some cases, maybe, but that's not what they're trained for. It is theoretical, and by and large remains theoretical. And then in the modern media, modern education gets quarantined as if the insights of quantum mechanics never happened. And it's business as usual.